guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to my ranking for the Evil Dead series. Yeah, man, another series review wrapped up and in the books, and as is tradition here on the channel, once that happens, we go ahead and rank the films from worst, quote unquote, to best. And yeah, man, overall, I'm happy with how this series panned out. I had to take a little break there towards the end, but you know what? We got it cranked out. And at the end of the day, seems like you guys enjoyed my reviews. I enjoy making these things, so it's a win-win, baby. I'll say this off the top. There's not really a movie in this series that I just dislike or hate or anything like that. You know, there have been series rankings, as you guys well know. If you've been on the been part of the DoD family for any amount of time, you know that there's some, even the beloved series of mine, like a Friday the 13th or a Nightmare on Elm Street. There are some ones I don't fucking like, man. You know, but I'm happy to say, you know, that's not really the case here. I think all these films are solid for what they are, what they provide. I think it really all comes down to taste and what people prefer in their Evil Dead, and you're going to clearly see what I prefer in my Evil Dead. And, you know, I'll mention that right off the top. Again, something else right off the top. This is my list. You know, it's not your list. It's not her list, his list. It's my list. If you have a different opinion, dude, that's what this place is all about, man. That's what this channel is all about. Feel free to comment it, man. Let me hear what you got to say. Let me see your ranking for the series. And we'll chat, man. We'll have a good talk, good discussion. That's what it's all about. But yeah, man, I haven't gotten any real ignorant shit on the channel yet. Obviously, I am prone to it. I am, you know, on the internet, so... But yeah, man, you guys have all been really, really cool about it, and I'm really proud of the little family we've acquired here. It's a good time. But yeah, man, I'm going to go ahead and quit ranting and raving, and we're just going to go ahead and... Oh, almost forgot. I've got some questions about this before. Obviously, since it's a TV series, I'm not going to include Ash vs. Evil Dead on this list. I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the review of the series review as well. It's not realistic for me to cover an entire 3-season show in one review or however many. It's just not going to fit into the schedule. But if you want to know how I feel about the show, I really liked it, and I'm really bummed out that it was fucking canceled. I thought it really, really breathed new life into the series and brought back Ash and all that shit, and yeah, I thought it was a really, really fun show, but of course it gets canceled because it's a fucking horror TV show, and they all do, unfortunately. Not all of them, but you get what I'm saying. But yeah, anyways, sidebar closed. Let's go ahead and get into the ranking. Alright, and opening it up, we have Army of Darkness. So like I said, I do not hate this film. Just because it is at the bottom of my list does not mean I think it's just an utter piece of shit or anything like that. At the end of the day, it's not what I'm looking for, man. It is not what I'm looking for in an Evil Dead film. I think if you tweak some things, you turn some things around, and this is its own thing, I think it's a fucking rad movie. I think it's extremely entertaining. I think Bruce Campbell's fucking incredible in it. That's really no surprise, but yeah, man, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just too damn cartoony and hokey. The Deadites are just fucking generic comic booky villains. They're literally like are skeletons by the end of the fucking movie. It's just not for me. I would even go as far as to say it's barely a horror film, honestly. I just, you know, I reviewed it because it's part of the Evil Dead series at the end of the day. But yeah, overall, fun film, entertaining, but just not for me. Moving on. Oh boy, I can hear those keyboards clacking away. Or not, maybe. Hopefully not. But, Evil Dead 2. So, with Evil Dead 2, I hadn't seen these films in a very long time. I hadn't seen them since I was like a pretty young guy, you know. Not saying I'm not young now, but tomato tomato. And I always championed Evil Dead 2 as my favorite Evil Dead film. And I always had that mindset because it has all that iconic shit in it. It has, you know, the prosthetic chainsaw hand, and it has like all these like really, really cool moments that when you think of Evil Dead, you think of those moments. So why is it so low on my list? Again, much like Army of Darkness, not as bad, but this is a very tonally confused film. I know Sam Raimi has unorthodox, you know, if you can even call it unorthodox, but, you know, he's his own artist, he's his own filmmaker, and he has a very specific vision that kind of carries out through his movies. You can tell, you can see it all over his films. At the end of the, and this is one of those examples, but at the end of the day, I feel like as a direct follow-up to Evil Dead, I just don't think it did the subject matter justice as far as the tone. I think it's okay to have comic relief, but I think with subject matter like this, you know, this dude just watched all of his friends basically disintegrate, for lack of a better summary. Just watched all of his friends die horrible deaths, and he himself was possessed, and this guy has to amputate his own hand, and he has to do all this crazy shit, and he has to like deal with the severed head of his dead girlfriend or fiance. I guess girlfriend, because he never really got to propose, but you know, he's just having to go through all this extremely horrifying, traumatic shit, and the film is played for laughs a lot of the time, and I just don't get it. It's just not for me. Again, just my opinion. But yeah, man, Evil Dead 2. Let's move on. And the controversy continues. We have the original Evil Dead, or The Evil Dead. Man, this was a tough one. This is where the ranking got pretty tough for me. And, you know, I know a lot of people would either put this at the top of their list or they would put Evil Dead 2 at the top of their list. And for me, you know, I love this film. Let me just get that out of the way right now. I think this is for the era it was in. I think this is like a perfect independent horror film, man. The concept is fucking incredible, and yeah, there are Evil Dead movies that I do think are better than this one. But at the end of the day, if this film does not exist, those films do not exist. So you gotta give credit as far as that is concerned, but it's not just a nostalgia pick. It's not just, I'm not looking at this through rose-colored glasses. This was an independent film with a lower budget, and obviously it can be a hindrance for some. It's noticeable, you know, just with certain things within the movie, you can tell. But really, man, barely. You know, I mean, you look at the era in which this movie was made, and yeah, you can say, oh, it's campy, and oh, it's, you know, whatever, but if you line this up with like a Friday the 13th or a Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm not seeing a whole lot of difference as far as the quality of the film is concerned. And those films had way higher budgets than this. So, you know, to me, I really, really do admire the fact that they were able to take the limited resources that they had and really, really cooked up something special. I just think of the world of this movie for that. Some of the best villains of all time in those original Deadites, and they look... And I will say, like, obviously the newer Deadites that we get in these newer films look fucking terrifying. But there's something about those original Deadites in the movie that, you know, with the makeup that they had, for some reason, man, they just look so fucking freaky. Like, their skin's all fucking clumpy and fucking just gross. And they barely look human. And they have these whited out eyes. And the fact that the actors legit could not see out of those contexts and they were just blind is just fucking crazy to think about every time I think about this movie. But man, overall, it's just, I fucking love this one, dude. I love everything about it, man. The atmosphere, the setting. I guess it's the same thing, kind of, but you know what I mean. Just the premise and the idea of opening up the Book of the Dead and reciting those passages, and then just hell being unleashed upon you and your friends. It's just fucking great, dude. It's fucking awesome. Yeah, man, rambling aside, that'll do it for The Evil Dead. Moving on. And up next, we have Evil Dead Rise, which is the most recent review on this channel. If you're interested, there are full-length reviews for each and every one of these movies on the channel. Just go back, watch whatever you want, watch whatever one you want, watch them all, or just stay here. I don't give a shit. No, but yeah, they all are there if you're interested, but this is the most recent one. And, you know, a big reason why I love this movie so much is the fact that, you know, I love when filmmakers take risks. If you've been on this channel for any amount of time, if you've been a part of the DoD family for any amount of time, you know when filmmakers take risks, and especially when it pays off, I admire that quite a bit. And this fucking film takes a huge risk with the setting. You know, Evil Dead has always been known as a cabin in the woods series. You know, I mean, fuck, you have the original Evil Dead, Cabin in the Woods. Evil Dead 2, Cabin in the Woods. Army of Darkness, you know, is not a Cabin in the Woods movie at all, but, you know, Evil Dead 2013, which we may or may not be talking about here in a second. All these films are rooted in that tradition, and this one just completely uproots that and does something totally different, but still maintains that original Evil Dead formula. You know, they bust out the stairs with an earthquake and they not shatter, but they completely decimate the elevator to where now the environment that these people are in, it's no longer this big building, and it has very, very quickly been reduced to a very small, very claustrophobic environment, especially with the literal evil that is hunting them and pursuing them. It's just, it works so well, you know, and not just that, but the familial element as well. And the fact that, you know, now we're not dealing with a group of college friends. We are dealing with a much not saying you can't be close to your friends, is not what I mean, but now we're dealing with a familial thing. And now it is like, it just, to me, it ramps up the tragedy all the more. And like, you see these people interacting with each other and loving one another, and like, they're not perfect. They all have their flaws, but at the end of the day, they care very deeply for one another. And so now you see these things happening, and you see this family essentially killing each other. And it's fucking brutal. It is brutal to watch. And to me, it makes the film all the more effective. And, you know, you'll hear me say intensity a lot. It ramps up the intensity from the original Evil Dead all the more. While also paying lots of love to the original Evil Dead as well as Evil Dead 2. So, I just think the world of this movie, dude. I fucking love it. And yeah, man, that's where it's going to fall on the list. Let's go ahead and round it out and talk about number 1. Take a wild guess. That's right, Evil Dead 2013. So, you know, I was really battling with myself. You know, do I put the original at the top? Do I put Evil Dead Rise, which was a very big contender for being at the top of this list? Or do I do this one? I think at the end of the day, this one beat out those two because it's the same praise that I had for Evil Dead Rise. It takes the intensity of the original Evil Dead and just cranks that shit up to 11. And it also has us in that very, very familiar environment and utilizes that environment just as effectively, if not more, than the original. I would argue that it does, you know, ramp it up quite a bit more. But again, that's just me. Yeah, man, I think this film pays so much love to what Evil Dead is at its roots. And, takes us in some different directions, takes some risks, having Mia, the main character of the movie, being the villain throughout the entire movie. And just all of her friends are now dead. And the ending battle with her and the abomination, Mia, we go on a very familiar ride throughout the entire film until that ending. And that ending just completely turns shit on its head. And I love shit like that, man. I love having my expectations subverted, which that film did quite effectively. I also think you're able to get pretty attached to the characters as well, much like Evil Dead Rise. With the reason for them being there, it's no longer just some fun, weekend getaway. And the fact they're trying to get their friend Mia to detox off of heroin. And, the reason for them being there is very personal, and it is very emotional, and there's a lot of emotions going around amongst the group. It's not like they spend eons on character development. There are some that lack it, and, it is what it is, but overall, you're able to get attached to something with each character, and I just really enjoy that. Yeah, man, for me, Evil Dead 2013 just does everything right. There's really nothing I honestly have to complain about when it comes to this movie. So, yeah, man, that'll do it for the Evil Dead ranking. Like I said, man, there are some that I prefer over others, but, I can't not recommend any of these films. I would say watch them all. You like what you like, and you don't like what you don't like. But yeah, man, anyways, like I said, that'll do it for the series ranking Evil Dead. Awesome fucking series overall. I love it. I adore it. And yeah, man, hopefully sometime soon we get some more Evil Dead shit to talk about. But until then, guys, next time on Days of Darkness, we're going to be talking about another entry in another franchise that has been getting a lot of talk recently, and I'm really curious to see what I think about it. And that is going to be The Exorcist Believer. It's a first time watch for me. I've never seen it. I don't know what to expect. I don't really know what's what with it. But yeah, man, I've been hearing some very up and down things. I've been hearing mostly negative things, and I'm curious to see if I share that same sentiment. Maybe I don't feel that way. I guess there's really only one fucking way to find out, and that's to stay tuned, motherfucker. But until then, guys, as always, thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you for supporting the channel, supporting the dream. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and for the love of all things gory, keep watching horror. All right, guys. Have a good day.